In my spring 2014 anime review, you may have noticed that I left out probably the most popular anime of the season, No Game, No Life. Well, the reason is quite simple really. I was deciding on whether or not I should finish the anime because I had dropped it. When I returned from my hiatus though, I decided to give it another chance, and now that I've finished it, here are my thoughts on No Game, No Life. Keep in mind that this is only my opinion, and if your opinion is different from mine, don't judge me for thinking separately. Also, there will be spoilers. So, let's start off with the good aspects of the anime. The overall presentation is far above average. The animation, done by Studio Madhouse, proves that once again the studio is capable of producing high quality line and framework, along with adding a unique edge to it all. The colors are very bright and variable, with red being the color of the day. Everything seems to be outlined or shaded with some sort of red, yellow, or blue, depending on the environment the characters are in, and it is very easy on the eyes unless you're not the biggest fan of bright colors. The actual animation is very fluid and consistent, which is a plus. The backgrounds look spectacular, and the character designs are pretty unique. The soundtrack is very memorable. It doesn't really rely on big orchestras like I'm used to in anime of this nature, but it makes up for it by using electronic music that gives the anime its game-like feeling. The best songs are The King's Plan, Now Loading, and the opening, which is fantastic, so check those out. I also really like the setting and the overall setup of the anime. It isn't your traditional trapped in a video game and can't escape setting, though it's very similar to one. It follows neat siblings Sora and Shiro as they're brought into a world populated by 16 intelligent races. These races settle their dispute with games such as chess, checkers, cards, etc. So, wars no longer exist, games are taken very seriously, and it's the perfect world for the gamer siblings to live in. There, they hope to rise to the top and challenge Ted, the god of the world. It's pretty interesting, and I like the idea of how games sometimes emulated actual wars, showing how the two aren't all that different. For example, take this scene here, when Sora and Shiro challenge Karami. The chess game looks very much like a real war rather than just a simple game, which made it seem all the more important. The same can be said for most other games played in the world, for the most part anyway. The characters are also pretty likable, and the story is well paced even though it's not complete. On to the bad. The unfortunate title that No Game No Life carries around is the ecchi title. And boy does it take advantage of it. In general, I don't really watch ecchi anime, which is why I had second thoughts on continuing this anime in the first place, because normally the obscene pandering gets in the way of whatever plot or character development the anime is trying to establish, and it takes me out of the experience. While No Game No Life does have a steady balance more than any other ecchi anime that I've seen, it still doesn't change the fact that it is so obviously trying to pander to you. I mean, come on, you got an Emoto Lolicon who's a gamer genius and loves her stepbrother, a girl who's supposed to be smart but is portrayed as incredibly naive and stupid, a tsundere, an elf chick, a freaking angel who calls Sora her master, and a fox girl. If that's not pandering, I don't know what is. Not to mention that besides Sora, there are only 2 other important male characters in the entire show. I suppose I could give it credit for at least knowing what it is, but even then it doesn't change the fact that this is a type of anime that I don't typically enjoy. I know that there are exceptions like Data Live, but the thing is, Data Live decided to amp up the stupidity of a plot rather than the fan service, which in my opinion made it a lot more enjoyable. In which case, No Game No Life decided to do the opposite. And, like I mentioned before, the pandering got in the way of any character development or story progression that was needed. Sora and Shiro pretty much remained static throughout the entire show, and every other character was kinda just there to progress the story, which kinda made them more like plot devices. Speaking of the story, it's entirely about challenging all 16 races so that Sora and Shiro can get to Tet. But the anime only covers them challenging one of the races and then ending on a cliffhanger. So, No Game No Life. What you're telling me is that unless you somehow get a second season, the only way I can see this story get completed is if I read the light novels, of which, might I add, I have no legal access to. Thanks. Another aspect that completely ruined the story for me was the fact that Sora and Shiro are completely overpowered. I know that they do explain themselves, but that still doesn't change the fact that it creates a lack of tension and excitement in any of the games. Cause I know that they're going to win due to some lengthy monologue that I just don't want to listen to. I get that the exciting part is watching them win and then learning how, but again, it kind of ruins the tension if you know that they're going to win and there are no obstacles in their way. I don't know about you, but I'd like some actual conflict in my stories. It's what gets me invested into them. So when a story really lacks any type of conflict, it's kind of hard for me to like it that much. So, those are my thoughts on No Game, No Life. Do I think it's a bad show? Well, in all honesty, it depends on you and your tastes. It could have easily been a guilty pleasure of mine, but it focused too much on the fan service and overpowering their main characters. To be frank, I didn't really enjoy the majority of this anime. I thought the comedy to be funny at times, but the second half became really repetitive with the "I will win everything" mindset, and my enjoyment began to deteriorate. I give No Game No Life a 2 out of 5. If you liked it, fine. I just couldn't find much that I personally enjoyed. So, what did you think of No Game No Life if you saw it? Do you agree or disagree with me? Leave it in the comments and I'll see you guys next time.